Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be going through our Week 7 must-add IDP waiver pickups. We're entering into almost the halfway point in the fantasy football season, and we're here to give you 5 players that we think you should prioritize adding. There's injuries all around us, so there's some fill-ins here that we're going to be talking about. So the first guy we're going to be talking about here is defensive end Odafe Oweh of the now LA Chargers. He was traded from the Baltimore Ravens, and this was the first game that he played with the Chargers, so he's just learning the playbook, just getting involved in the defense. And I would say it was a promising first start for him. He only played 49% of the snaps in this game, and it was a competitive game. It wasn't like it was a blowout. But in that game, he ended up getting a sack and 2 total tackles, 1 solo, 1 assisted. So like I said, when it comes down to it, he's still getting involved in that defense. And for him to be able to do that right away, I think it's very promising. Let's not forget the general manager, Joe Horitz, came from Baltimore. So he was involved in that front office when they decided to draft him. I think even from a dynasty perspective, I know that, this could be, more, you might be more, I would be surprised if he's not on a dynasty roster unless it's very thin. But to me, it's like, look, he's a free agent, I think, at the end of the year. This is his 4th season. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers bring him back. Khalil Mack is, getting up there in age. This could probably be his last season. He's already got that injury he's dealing with. So depending on how Oweh does, I could see Oweh, re-signing with the LA Chargers. So I think that Oweh could only get better here. I think he's a promising guy to pick up here.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Also has familiarity. Dee Winters actually started out with the Ravens as well before becoming the defensive coordinator at Michigan, which ultimately followed Harbaugh over to the Chargers as well from Michigan. But so he's got the familiarity with the system, and we were talking about Tuli Pelotu not too long ago, and just how he didn't really have much of a running mate there, or just somebody else to really help him. He's kind of boomer bust, but Oweh is a guy that I was never that high on or that impressed with the Ravens, but watching the game, he definitely felt like made an impact. He was putting pressure on Tua, and he did get a sack in this game. So I do think he's an interesting pickup and a guy to keep an eye on moving forward. Our next player is going to be Jonah Laulu of the Las Vegas Raiders, defensive tackle. He's coming off a game where he was able to get a sack. He also had 3 total tackles, 2 solo, 1 assisted, tackle for loss, quarterback hit, and a pass deflection as well. Kind of filled up the stat sheet in this game. And, to be honest with you, Steve, before watching this game, it wasn't a guy I was too familiar with, but watching the game, you definitely heard him on the broadcast a lot. He made his presence felt. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with his performance. And, I think he's an interesting guy kind of moving forward here for the Raiders.
Yeah, I think, with Christian Wilkins, basically being outcasted from the team, there had to be a replacement there. Adam Butler did a really good job last year when, Christian Wilkins got hurt. But there's Laulu. He's coming in, and it's got a combination of him and Butler, but he seems to be the guy who's shown more on the box score. So to me, I think he's a guy, defensive tackle is tough to come by as it is. So he's the type of player that I think could be very valuable to have on your roster, especially, from a dynasty perspective, again, I think this guy has to be on a roster, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think? It's tough. We try to talk about roster percentages, but it's like, if you look at Vantrax, a lot of times they say they're all 2% rostered. So it's really hard to say.
It's also hard for us to say. We're in a 16-team league too, where we, start a couple of defensive tackles as well. He's rostered in our league, but our league is also super deep. So for a league that might not be as deep, but I think he could be available. But talk about a, guy that's got 4 sacks on the season here as well. That's pretty impressive when we always look for that sack upside from the D line.
All right, next guy we're going to be talking about here is linebacker Dee Winters of the San Francisco 49ers. And you may be asking yourself, why are we talking about him? He didn't have that great of a game. I get that. He had 4 total tackles, 3 solo. But Fred Warner ended up leaving the game, I believe, with an ankle injury that they're saying is going to be a season ender for him. And I think this is the opportunity for Winters to really the sky is the limit for him. People were talking about him possibly coming in, replacing Dre Greenlaw and being that guy for the Niners defense. And he has shown on the field, what he's capable of. People have even compared him to past, linebackers like Navarro Bowman, for the San Francisco 49ers. I think Dee Winters, it's interesting because honestly, even in our Dynasty League, I've been highly contemplating trying to trade and get a more high caliber linebacker. But after this, I think Winters is a guy, he's a plug and play in your lineup the rest of the way. I just think he's just going to, Fred Warner was already having a really good season. Now that he's gone, Winters is going to be the guy, and I think he could have a monster season the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, despite his lackluster performance in this game, you got to pick him up. I mean, with the opportunity that, Fred Warner no longer there, leaving that opportunity, somebody else has to kind of fill in and be the guy for that defense. And, outside of them possibly making a trade or bringing in an additional linebacker, I mean, at this point, Dee Winters is in line for it. Not even sure what they could really do in terms of a trade or anything to get a guy, a linebacker, to kind of fill in for Fred Warner if they didn't feel comfortable with Dee Winters. But at the moment, he is a must pick up and a guy that's getting a ton of opportunity and should perform a lot better moving forward here. Our next player is going to be linebacker Shaq Thompson of your Buffalo Bills, Steve. And this is a guy who's gotten some opportunities with the injuries at the linebacker, specifically with, Matt Milano been missing. But the last couple of weeks, I mean, in our league, he scored over 20 points. Last week he had a sack, but then in this one, he had 10 total tackles, 5 tackles solo, 5 assisted, tackle for loss in this game. He also should have had an interception, dropped it. But just watching the game, I mean, honestly, you see number 45. I mean, he's flying all over the field for the Buffalo Bills. He's really in good position. I know Milano kind of called him the OG. He had the familiarity with McDermott back in his Carolina Panthers days. Now coming over to the Bills and really filling the need. And he's honestly looked pretty good. And, I don't know, there doesn't really seem to be a clear timetable for Milano to return. Saw Terrell Bernard get dinged up in this game. Now they do have the bye next week. Is that enough time for Bernard to kind of heal up? But even so, Shaq Thompson's looking good out there, and I think he's worth a pickup.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, the starters are out, and now Thompson has this opportunity to rise up. And like you say, he's familiar with the defense. That's huge. And I think at the end of the day, look at what happened at the beginning of the season last year. Dorian Williams was, I believe, an LB1 during the time when he was the starter. Now you got a guy like Shaq Thompson, who's even more familiar with the defense. I think he's got a little bit, even though he's older, I think he probably has better coverage ability than Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams is like, see ball, hit ball type of guy, right? Like he just, he's a thumper, right? But I think Shaq Thompson is maybe a little more, versatile type, even in his older age. So I think this is the type of thing where it's like even looking like a Teddy Buchanan, right? We heard that Roquan Smith is coming back. His relevance probably, he goes back on the shelf. So for now, depending, this is more of a deep league ad. I think it makes a lot of sense. All right, last guy we're going to be talking about here is safety DeShon Elliott of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This past game here, he's on the field for 91% of the snaps. And you look at DeShon Elliott, honestly, he's been somewhat of a journeyman. Was in Baltimore, was in Detroit, was in Miami, but has really found a home in Pittsburgh. He has his past 2 seasons with Pittsburgh. He's having career years, and right now he's having so far. I mean, it's early yet. He's only played 3 games in the season, but so far he's doing great. 4 solo tackles, 8 assisted. He's all over the ball. And so I think, when it comes to safeties, I feel like safeties has been very difficult to have consistency there. And so he's a guy who, because he was a journeyman in the past and because maybe his injury, if this is a more shallow IDP league, people may have gotten impatient and dropped him. But to me, I think he's done very well in this Pittsburgh system. And I think he would definitely be worth an ad. And I think you could start him, honestly, going forward.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I think he's a good pickup. I mean, honestly, the Steelers needed somebody to step up at safety after trading away Minka Fitzpatrick in the offseason. I know they got, Jalen Ramsey moving all around, playing that star role. But DeShon Elliott definitely has seemed to find a home, and he's been really productive. And like you mentioned, even dating back to last year when he had his opportunities, he played really well. So seems to fit well in the Pittsburgh Steelers system, and I don't see why that wouldn't continue here.
So that does it for this episode. We went through our Week 7 must-add IDP Waiver Wire pickups. If you haven't done so already, check out our most recent episode. We did the same exercise, but for the offensive side of the ball, giving you 5 players that you should go prioritize. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.